Take this fight to an all-new front. Go behind the scenes. Be the first to know about our exclusives. And stay connected. Only one man has what it takes to bring the fun of Comic-Con right to your screen. This Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Get your fix. Join our mailing list today and receive the first 3 issues of Yisunshin digitally for free. Order now at www.yisunshin.com.
How you doing, Victory Seekers? You're watching Live with Onrie, and I'm your host, Onrie Compen. We're in a little bit of a different setting here. Got a new setup going on, so I just can't wait to spend time with you guys on Friday. I finally figured out a way to replicate what I have done so well at conventions, in a remote location, and it's going to take some time. But I've kind of figured some stuff out after doing the first episode, learned a few lessons, and I'm now kind of trying to catch up with my digital marketing game here. So bear with me as I'm learning and treading a new territory. But that's not why I brought you on tonight, folks. Tonight I brought you on to introduce you guys to an incredible independent creator who has put out a comic that I am just so in love with. It is called Monster Matador, and it has a Kickstarter going on right now for its first and second issue. So all throughout this episode, you are going to see this scrolling, and I hope you do what the message tells you to do. Go on Kickstarter right now, back this book, Monster Matador number 1 and 2. Get on this stuff. I read the first issue. It is excellent work. I have decided to stop using F-bombs because I don't know who's watching at any point, but just imagine that if I could drop the F-bomb right now, it would be huge because this artwork is fantastic. This storytelling is fantastic. And what am I doing talking up the creator when he could be telling us all this stuff? So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Stephen Prince to the show. How you doing, sir?
Hey, everybody. It's good to be here. I figure I got to hit myself.
Hell yeah, you do, man. Absolutely. Do us a favor.
This is high energy with Onrie. I've watched the show before. It's just I'm a little worried.
Why are you worried, man? Tell us all who you are, what you do.
So my name is Steve Prince. I am the writer and creator of Monster Matador, a post-apocalyptic tale about a father who wants to make a better future for his daughter, and he does it by fighting monsters. It's Mad Max meets Godzilla with some Santo thrown in there just for good measure. And it's drawn by newly Ringo Award-nominated artist Fabio Alves, who was the artist on the critically acclaimed Banjax from Action Lab. And it's colored by Alex Zeff, who's done work for American Mythology on a book called Hatchet. So that's it in a nutshell. And if you could see behind me, we've got some of the issue number 1, and that's the Kickstarter, the original art to the Kickstarter exclusive cover from issue 1. So, and that's from Kyle Roberts.
Excellent. Could you pull it out a little bit so we could see it a little bit better? That would be fantastic.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that is some really gorgeous artwork, my friend.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate getting some really amazing artists on the book. Like I said, Fabio was just nominated for a Ringo Award for his cover art for Banjax, and this is one of the covers he did. We did a homage to the Beastie Boys, Check Your Head.
Fuck yeah. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm dropping F-bombs.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to. And
I was actually, last time I was in LA, I was totally rocking out the Beastie Boys, dude. So that's,
you have to.
When I'm at conventions, I actually have like my AirPods on while I'm selling, and I'll be like straight up listening to Beastie Boys all the time.
Yeah, it's timeless.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, here's a question I wanna kick things off with. Let's get into you a little bit here, because clearly you're a man of fine taste, and you seem to have taken that fine taste and created something that other people with fine taste can appreciate. So I was a backer on your first issue, and what really got me about your book was it was like the Hispanic version of Yisun Shin, just the way it was drawn, the same red colors and everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this looks kind of cool. So I backed the Kickstarter, and then I got the book. You delivered it right when you promised, and I was always looking forward to it. And I finally read it, and I enjoyed it because it was just something. It felt like the Mask of Zorro, kind of, and it just, it really pulled me in. Like, these matadors are flying these big, like, flies, and like they're freaking, they've destroyed the planet and stuff. It's kind of like Pacific Rim meets Mask of Zorro, like it's I really enjoyed it, and I like the characters that you brought into the story too. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, the story you created, like what inspired you and how you brought this project to life?
Sure. The project, interestingly enough, I created years and years ago, and I'm a big Peter Sellers fan, and there's a movie he did that's not as well known called The Bobo, and he plays a matador in it. And ever since, I've just always loved the iconography of the matador. There's something about it. There's almost something, superheroic or comic booky about how they move, the gracefulness, and the name just sort of popped into my head, Monster Matador. And I thought, there's something about that. There's something about putting a guy in this what's essentially a superhero costume with nothing more than a sword and a cape against these giant kaiju monsters, and fighting them. And it's been an interesting book because so much of it has to do with, and it's hard to kind of explain. It's almost like in the style of a telenovela, but the tone is so important because as a reader, you have to believe that, a 6 foot tall guy can actually stand up to an 8-story monster, right? And fight it with a sword and cape. I actually did, in, I think it was 2015, I actually drew 12 issues of Monster Matador. I wrote and drew 12 issues of Monster Matador, which is sort of like how he became, it's the origin of the Monster Matador, how he became the Monster Matador. And the book that you see now on Kickstarter is really, to me, it's like a reboot of the book, and it's basically the character as the Monster Matador. And in that first issue, as you know, we take the reader, and when you first see him, he's being held up by this giant monster flying through the air, and he gets dropped into the action. It's sort of like we're dropping the readers right into the action, and we hit the ground running. And the core concept of the book is he has a young daughter who at this point in the game is about 6-7 years old, and like I said, he's fighting to make the world a better place for her. And that's kind of like the heart and the core of the story. And as the story will evolve and go on, he'll travel the world fighting monsters. We'll begin to open up and sort of explore the origins of the monsters and all those things. So we've got a lot planned. It's definitely been thought through. And one thing you did mention about the Kickstarter is that, we shipped it on time. And this second issue is completely drawn, it's completely written, it's completely colored. So this is not the kind of thing where you're going to have to wait 6 months or a year for it to be fulfilled. It's ready to go once the campaign ends. It's something that for me as a creator is very important, and someone who's doing Kickstarter is very important. People that back these projects are supporting you, and they're paying essentially a premium for the product, and I want to make sure that they're treated right and that they get the work that they pledge for.
I think that I can attest to everything you said being true, as I am someone who's a fan of yours, and I like to take pride in the fact that I was one of your first backers for this campaign, because I have nothing but faith in you with this wonderful series. So what's kind of cool is I noticed this unique parallel, because as you were telling me about the telenovela stuff and like what kind of inspired in the Matadors and like the uniforms that they wore, that they were superheroes, that's initially what drew me to Yi Sun-shin, because I watched this Korean drama, and here were these guys in these big robes, like it made them look like they were bigger than they were, like they were more robust than they normally would be. And I was like, that's cool, you know, that would look cool in a comic. And you know, that's initially what it's the sort of like the design of the characters that really initially pulls you in. And what's kind of cool about the Matadors is they're not really explored a lot in comics.
Right.
You know, like the actual, like, it's almost like kind of like you know, uncharted territory, so to speak, you know, sort of like what I've been able to do with Yi Sun-shin. And, you know, like I see a lot of really neat parallels. And what's cool about this is, as I've kind of come to learn a little bit more about, you know, this situation that we're in and how we're being forced to do things more remotely, is I think it's important for us to see the similarities in our projects as a benefit, because you know, people who like Monster Matador will also like Yi Sun-shin, and vice versa. Fans of Yi Sun-shin will love this book, and I can tell you that because I'm the guy who created Yi Sun-shin, and I'm a fan of it, so you should be too.
And I loved your book. I mean, and you're right about that. You know, I've been on a kick of watching a ton of Asian films since the quarantine started, both Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. And when you watch those historical dramas, you know, not just the costumes, but the hairstyles, the scenery, everything. I mean, it's majestic. You know, it looks like almost like when you think of like science fiction. You know, these giant castles with armies of hundreds and thousands of people, and they're all in these bright colors, and you know. The weaponry and everything about it is it's definitely a lot of similarities to it, and it's compelling. They're great. I mean, Yi Sun-shin is, you know, I just read it only a few weeks ago when I ordered it from you, and I loved it. You know, it's an action adventure tale. You know, you don't even have to like think sometimes, you know. We place these labels like, oh, it's a historical drama or this on it or whatever. It's like, no, it's just a straight up awesome action, you know, awesome action tale. It's a lot of fun.
I appreciate that, man. That really means a lot to me, because you know, I felt like the artwork in your book too, like, was extraordinarily detailed. Like it's, you know, it's not just these covers that you're showing or the images that you're using to promote the book. That's what you're getting.
That's the inside.
The artwork on the cover is the exact artwork you're going to see on the inside. You know, yes, you got variants, which is a wonderful thing to have too, because why not see different artists' depiction like your comic? But you know, at the same time, it's like the main artwork for the book is just absolutely gorgeous. Look at those colors.
You can see that, yeah. I mean,
if you guys haven't yet, seriously, back this book. It's not. I mean, it's a single issue book, guys. What's the cheapest way for people to support you right now on Kickstarter?
You can do digital, which is it's $5 for the second issue. It's $10 for the catch up, and you know, we're going to be throwing in tons of free digital comics in there.
So two comics for $10, if I'm understanding that.
Yeah, and then you could still catch for the physical. You can still catch the early birds.
And then if you reach your stretch goals, you get all those too, right?
You get you'll get tons of stuff. Trust me. This one I'm putting in. If you get a comic, you'll get a trading card. I think, you know, if we hit some goals, you'll get prints in there. We'll throw stickers in there. I did for the first campaign. I did sketches. I did a thank you letter, and I put a sketch in there.
Saw that.
Every single backer.
Yes, that was awesome, dude.
And everyone that backs this one, you're gonna get. I did head sketches for the first campaign. The second campaign is actually going to be a scene where he's fighting a monster or something, like a quick sketch. It's something. It's just a small way to say thank you, you know, to the people that are supporting the book. Because, like I said, it's you know, people that are backing Kickstarters. You're going above and beyond for us, for the indie creators, and we need you, and we appreciate you, and I appreciate you. So it's small things like that. I'm happy to do for the backers.
Yeah, and let me just say, man, as one of your backers, it's something that goes a very long way. I remember, and I wanted to leap out of my seat as you told me this, because I can't tell you that is true. It's not salesmanship. You are showing your audience that you actually give a crap about them, and that's a very, very important thing. When I first started backing Kickstarters in 2012, I backed this one project, and the book came with a little note that like said, it was so generic. It was like, thanks for backing, whatever the guy's name was. And he signed off on the book. And I was so disappointed in the presentation of this. Like, even though you had that many backers, it's like you couldn't print it up on a nice little letterhead and fold it up and put it in an envelope and just sign off on something like, thanks for giving me your money. And, like, thanks for being a part of my movement. And I really, really appreciate that's always been something that I felt is very important. And I see a lot of people on Kickstarter forget to do these things when they deliver on their backers' rewards. But I was so pleasantly surprised to see you doing it, and very appreciative of it, because some of these campaigns are so big, like they can't be personalized to everybody. Like, if you look at like some of Brian Polito's, Kickstarters, they're so huge. He's got so many backers, it's almost impossible. So it's understandable on those sizes, but you've done a really good job of running, these micro campaigns for your single issues, which I'm sure are helping you out tremendously with keeping the production of the book going. Tell us what you're using the money for.
The money is strictly for printing. Mm-hmm. So we're using the money for printing, for rewards. Anything that gets is left over, and anything above and beyond just goes back into production. The way I've set it up right now is, as we build the audience, we're just really kind of looking to get the books out there, and then over time, hopefully we'll start to make back our principal and whatever. But, the important thing is it's a new concept. It's more important to me to get the book funded, get the printing funded, get the book to people like you, people who are trying it for the first time, so they can look at it and go, wow, this is something that I want to support. This is something I want to come back to. We print on cardstock covers, glossy interiors. We ship in Gemini mailers. We don't go cheap on anything. It's really important that you get a quality product. And, to me, like, the money will come later. You know what I mean? Like, we're just right now, we're really focused on building the audience and letting people know that not only are we serious about the book, but we're also serious about how we present the book to you. We're not just stuffing it in an envelope and shipping it out. And we're not just going for the cheapest printing and shipping it out. We really want it to look the best. This is a book that will stand up to any book in the comic shop from a major publisher. And that's the goal.
Absolutely. Hands down, that this book belongs on the shelf of every single comic shop. And it's interesting because earlier this afternoon, I was with my son. I was buying him gym shoes, and there's so many great, interesting live streams right now. Tom Hutchinson, who's going to be on the show next week, I think, was talking to Jesse James from the Comic Shop Network, and they were talking about getting independent books out there and how difficult it is across the board to really get retailers to stock up on independent books. And it is a vessel for us, but it has also forced us to have to work outside of those networks and go to things like Kickstarter, because that's what actually gets us the most eyes on our work and allows us to actually like get it out to the general public. So, I mean, it's really kind of become our vessel in the absence of comic conventions. It's taken me a very long time to kind of catch on to that. I'm a slow learner, I guess.
Yeah, it's without conventions, it's tough. There's a lot of online conventions and things like that, but it's not the same. I mean, it's especially 6 months. I think it's like 6 months on that we've all been kind of, in a holding pattern. It's nice. I mean, you can't replicate. You can't beat meeting fans face to face. You know, you know, I also have a lot of friends that do Kickstarters, and I shared a table with David Schrader, who does Baby Badass. We shared a table at Long Beach Comic-Con last year in September, and there were so many people who backed his Kickstarter campaign, you know, who came to the table, who just wanted to meet him and say hi, and, you know, talk about the book. And, you know, the conventions are great in complementing the Kickstarters and complementing all the online stuff, and the online stuff is great in complementing the conventions. But, you know, ultimately it's, you know, for us, especially for indie creators, you know, our fans are the most important thing. You know, we don't have the luxury of like a Marvel or whatever of treating our fans like a number. You know, like for us, we really strive to build that relationship with each and every fan, you know. So like you said, you know, when I send those thank you letters, that's a genuine thank you. It's not like a form letter of like, you know, put my initials on it and sign it. I actually do, you know, we take the time to write it because we really do appreciate it, and we really do care about the fans that support us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens once conventions do return, because I feel like there's been a very strong push to get for independent comics to really shine in ways that they haven't been able to before. When you saw the disruption of the supply chain in comics and with Diamond and everything, and you saw this like halt made to the distribution of comics. I recently started reading again, and I realized that everything on my pull list currently is all independent books, like all Image and self-published stuff, and just, you know, like reading nothing but like Vault. Let's see.
Scout's really good. Scout is
fantastic. Have you checked out Grit?
I have it. I haven't read. I've got two kids. I've got two kids too, so I'm so behind on my reading. So
Grit is seriously like,
yeah, it looks great.
Everything that cover says it promises it's going, and you know, you just see so much great stuff coming out of independent creators right now. Like, there's really no limitation to anything. And the way I was thinking about it is, we're really kind of like pioneers in this industry, because we've kind of made it on our own without needing to go to Marvel and DC. A lot of people are like, well, you're not really considered to be in comics until you work for the companies, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, speaking from my own experience, you know, like, it's great to work with people who have the education and the background to have worked at those companies. I think in our situations, we're more attached to the projects we're working on than, you know, necessarily continuing to build on, you know, stuff for the big two unless they approach us, you know. And
and the, you know, the quality of indie books, of a lot of indie books now, is, and when I say indie, I'm not talking about, you know, the booms or whatever. I'm talking guys like us, people you see on Kickstarter. Charlie Stickney, who did White Ash, started, you know, that started on Kickstarter. That's on Scout. That's with Scout now, and he's one of the publishers. The quality is now, you know, at the same level of books like Image, you know, of the, you know, top 5 publishers. Where if you go back 20 years, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, the quality was not the same. The creators, the level of artists, the level of writers, the level of the books that are coming out now, I think are the best that they've ever been.
I agree. You know, and even DC is doing some interesting stuff too.
Yeah.
It's like, I really hate this whole talk of everybody saying like, oh, Marvel's stuff is all crap and all DC.
Don't read it. Don't read
it, dude. There's plenty of other stuff out there. There's so much independent stuff out there right now that's not getting any attention. If you don't like the Marvel and DC stuff, turn to that. But here's the thing, though. The reality is, you want those books at Marvel and DC to succeed, because if they're succeeding, you're succeeding.
Right.
If people see 2 comic books, you know, right next to each other, they're going to read them both and say, I have 2 comics. They're not going to say, well, I'm not going to read this one because it says DC and that one because it says Marvel. I mean, some people are more selective than others, but I mean, you know, I think in our case, it's like, you know, I think there's also been this kind of like stigma placed over self-publishing as if like the quality is not as good or something. I don't know where that came from, because so many people who left Marvel and DC like went on to do their own self-publishing endeavors and become massively successful.
Yeah, and I saw that you work with David Anthony Kraft on your book.
Yeah, I was just talking to him before we got on.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I'll date myself, but I remember Comics Interview was his big, which is still the best interviews, with the Comics Journal, that have been done. No one has done interviews like that since then. And if you can track those down, they're great. But people don't realize a lot of indie comics. I mean, we have editors, we have proofreaders. We're not just like throwing the stuff out there. We have A-level artists. Colorists. These are all people who are good enough to work at the big companies. But a lot of them, like Fabio, who does Monster Matador, he chooses to do indie books. He loves working on indie stuff, and he's got obviously Monster Matador. He's got Banjax, which he got nominated for a Ringo Award. He did The Jump on Kickstarter with Ryland Grant, which was a huge campaign. They did $15,000, I think, and that was back in June.
$15,000. What I wouldn't kill for that kind of money, right?
I know, right? Ryland is a good friend. He's a hustler. He makes it.
You know what, man? I gotta say, my hat's off to everybody who is in the independent game, man. Like everybody's hustling, everybody's working their game, everybody's doing everything. And honestly, I don't think I would have made through any of the breakthroughs I did psychologically throughout this, because I was so into what I was doing on the convention front in person, that I started to neglect the creative side of myself.
Right.
And that was something that I wasn't paying attention to, because when you're making money off of your own like property, it's a very intoxicating thing. It's just, you want to keep going, and you'll run yourself past your own limits and everything. This situation really forced me to slow down. So it's like at first to a halt, which is really depressing. Yeah. And I guess the silver lining in everything is just that I've gained so much perspective from talking to all these different creators, yourself included now, and learning to see that it just because there's no conventions doesn't mean you have to stop making comics. You can keep going. And I've been working this whole time, but the one thing I felt kind of like go dead in my soul was the promoting marketing aspect of my work, which is it's a production in and of itself. I mean, like, it truly is. Here we gotta wear all the hats. It's not like you could just be like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that all writers and artists are, whether they're working at Marvel and DC, they're all promoting themselves. So it's not like they're not doing anything, but they don't have to do it at the same level we do just to move like 100 books. Like they do it because they want to sell hundreds of thousands of books. Right. So it's like, and it's their job. They've been, kind of like, it comes with the territory of being attached to something, major. So I think that there's promotion going on. We're all learning from each other, and what you're also seeing too is a lot of these pro guys, they're taking their own ideas and they're going to smaller publishers. Like if you notice, Scott Snyder did that with
to Image.
Was it to Image or was it to SourcePoint Press?
Oh, did he go to SourcePoint?
Wow. They have gone to SourcePoint, which is huge for them. I mean, that's cool. And Scott Snyder.
Yeah, I think where you're going to see in the next probably 5 years, you'll look back. I think you're seeing right now is a major shift away from what's historically been the big two. I think the indie stuff it's growing, and it's growing. A lot of it too is growing outside the comic book store. Yeah.
I love going to the comic store, man.
So do I. Yeah.
I straight up still go all the time. I haven't done any signings because they're like, like my local shop. He's just like, we need to let the village know, and it's like, what's the point right now? It's just like, it's better it's better to reach people through what you're doing on Kickstarter. You know, it's just what you're doing everything right. You know, and so how are you doing along in the campaign so far? Like psychologically, I know you just hit the launch button. What was it, yesterday?
I just hit it yesterday. Yeah.
So where are you so far? How's your progress?
I think I'm almost a third of the way. So it's a little softer than I would have liked, but I kind of expected that this time around. Everyone I've seen, every campaign has been taking a little longer than usual. It's a really weird time right now, you know.
Do you think because of the elections, or do you think that it's something else? Like what would you attribute it to?
A lot of different things. You know, I was kind of going back and forth. Do I launch now? Do I not launch now? Do I wait? I don't know. But I'm like, you know, I'll just do it. I think it's a lot of different things. I think we're living through an interesting times. I think people are concerned. Disney just laid off 28,000 people.
No, dude, that sucks.
I mean, let's face it. People are, probably getting a little more concerned about life and jobs and everything. I still, entertainment is an escape. People are still looking for entertainment.
Absolutely. That's where you come in.
Right.
I let me tell you something, Stephen. I thought at first when all of this happened with the pandemic and the conventions closed down, I probably even said it on the show multiple times. And if I could go back in time and smack myself upside the head, I would. But I was like, I just wish they would let me get back to what I was doing. But right. I realized only 7 months after the fact that I haven't done a convention anymore that no one told me to stop anything except for me. And, okay, fine. Things are off to a little bit of a slow start, or for you in the sense that that's how you feel right now. But you're a third of the way there. Let me tell you something. On my second Kickstarter, and I've only done 2.
Right.
I felt the same way, and I hadn't done another Kickstarter in 2 years. So there was a 2-year gap in between my first and second Kickstarter, and I was very happy with the end results because I earned them. And you know what? Right. You're going to earn yours too, and I know you're going to get funded, and I know you're going to get going. So tell us about these some stretch goals you have in place. So, do you have any? I mean, I'm not sure how your campaign is structured.
I haven't announced. I'm kind of going back and forth between a few different things. We're definitely I'm working with an artist right now who's going to do a pinup for us, and we'll announce that. It's either going to be a stretch goal or when we hit the campaign, and all the physical backers will get a print of that pinup with it. We've got, I think, vinyl stickers. There's a couple other things. I'm still sort of pricing stuff out, to try and figure out. But
I actually have something I'd like to offer you. Probably not online because it'd be like asking you to marry me in front of everybody and you saying no.
I'll say yes.
No, but one of the things that I notice other creators are doing right now is they're providing people free samples of.
Yeah, we have that. I'm going to be doing that throughout the campaign. I'll be giving out books from different creators as kind of like milestone goals. So I've got books from a bunch of creators right now, and I'm still collecting them. So we're going to be spacing those out over the course of the campaign and giving them out to people. And I actually just got approved for something today from Kickstarter for a beta test for add-ons. So this is interesting, is that usually you're kind of locked into what reward tiers. So in this case, let's say, you want to get a digital copy, but you don't want a physical book, but you want a copy of this glow-in-the-dark print that we did, glow-in-the-dark screen print. Then you could just add on the screen print without having to get a physical book. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's cool.
So I have to I'll be setting that up in the next couple of days. So we'll see how this is I guess a test that Kickstarter is running in some campaigns. So we'll see. And I think it's something that a lot of creators kind of struggle with, and I know I struggle with in putting tiers on there, because sometimes I feel like there's too many, but you're trying to figure out, because people love variant color covers, people love all different things, and you're trying to figure out all the different combinations to offer, but you can't offer everything, because then you'd have like, 100 reward tiers. It just gets, I mean, even now I think I've got something like 15 or so, and even that for me is like, it's a lot, but being able to offer like, the backers the ability to just kind of like take things a la carte, I think is a fantastic option. And to do it, I believe you can do it during the campaign. I have to check, which is different than what backer kit is, which is after the campaign. So,
yeah, man, I gotta I gotta figure that out, like the crowd ox and all those the backer kits.
yeah.
So it's been a while. It's been like 2 years since I've done a Kickstarter, and I'm like really behind on stuff. Does CrowdOx and all that stuff, is that a separate platform you pay for?
It's a separate platform. So that's the tricky thing. And the positive thing is that I think everyone thinks it's the same platform, but you don't lose people going from Kickstarter to backer kit. You know what I mean? Like it's a pretty smooth. It's pretty smooth once you finish the campaign.
No, I love how it works. It's
really smooth.
Is it easy to implement?
I didn't use it for mine, because you really need to you need to do in like, to make it worthwhile. I've heard you got to do about like around 7,000 or so, because of their fees and setups and all things like that.
So if your campaign doesn't, you can set it up after your campaign is over, right? You don't need to have it in place.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, backer kit is after your campaign is over. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. All right.
Yeah. I'm not sure what this Kickstarter beta test is, if it's during or after, but
yeah. See, I'm a fossil with all this stuff, and I'm trying to catch up. And I should have known a lot of this stuff going in, but just again traveling and. I just don't have a lot of time in front of the computer. I try and stay away from I've been staying away from the computer so long.
Yeah.
I just, you get sucked up in it, and, just when you're writing and, we all spend too much time in front of technology anyway, so I try and get out as much as possible.
No, I don't blame you. Running the Kickstarter, it's horrible, because it's like you're nonstop. Right now, I'm like,
I've been there.
I hate it. But yeah. Plus, you've got kids. I've got kids. I mean, it's like it's just.
Oh yeah, with kids, it's like
not enough time in the world. Yeah.
No, there isn't, and it's like what really sucks is it's like setting up and everything, and when you're doing anything business wise, when it comes to implementing anything or just being in production, you get really caught up in what you're doing. It's very like, and the problem I've had is. I was trying to at first get in touch with the creative side of myself, which I had become very detached from.
Right.
And it took me like a couple months to get myself up and running again, to the point where I can like start, knocking out scripts, kind of a thing, And even though I never knock out scripts, I'm very methodical, and I take.
No, but you have to be in a.
Yeah.
You have to be there, yeah.
Especially when you're doing freelance stuff, and like you have to meet other people's deadlines. It's not just about you; it's about keeping the project going. So, each project I'm working on right now provides a little bit of a different experience for me, and I've never been managing so many different productions at once. Because I was always only focused on Yisun Shin. So, at first, I was so upset about the fact that there are no conventions anymore, but now I'm starting to see the benefit of it, and I see it because of what you're doing. Like it's just making me realize, okay, well now I gotta think outside the box a little bit in order to get people interested in what I'm doing, because we'll even look at the banner down here. Back Monster Matador #1 and 2 on Kickstarter right now. Now, initially when I wrote this banner for you, I had it from Monster Matador #2, but you specifically asked me to put #1 in there, and I was like, right on, I'm going to do that. Why? Because why have one when you can have two? Right. And I thought that was a really great call on your end, and I'm glad I did it. And folks, do what the thing's telling you to do here. Do it. Just do it. Yeah, but that's the kind of thinking that needs to go in, and I can see that you're paying attention. You know
Right.
what to go there, and that's cool. And yeah, right on, man. So how'd you get in?
It's crazy. I mean, you said it before, but like, one thing with the indie guys is, you have to wear all these hats, and it's overwhelming because I just want to sit down and write. But I've also got to be an editor, I've also got to be a creative director. I've also got to be a marketer. I've also got to be a salesman. I've also got to be in the, in the shipping. I've got to pack all the boxes. I got to, it's everything.
I love doing all that stuff. I hate the writing. I'm like,
oh, I love.
Oh, I mean, in order
Yeah.
for me to sell it, it has to be mine. So I just dread the work that comes with writing, because it requires such a different part of my brain. And if my business side is speaking to me, which it never shuts up now, like
Right.
for the last 7 months, it's been kind of dormant. I've finally shut it up,
Yeah.
But now it is like just raging, and it's like, oh, come on, get out there and fucking hands up, motherfucker. That's why I got here and everything. But aside from that, though, it's hard to balance both, and
Right.
not to say that freelancers who work for Marvel or DC or any exclusive creators aren't dealing with the same thing. I mean, they're juggling books on very, very tight schedules. They have to promote. They have to do everything. We have to do times 10 in some ways, But at the same time, I like the fact that we have the ability to put these books out when they're ready, because they matter so much to us, and that there are ways for us to bring it out to people, even in this environment that we're in right now, because nobody knows what's going to happen. I'm highly skeptical of whether or not we'll see conventions in 2021, and I don't want to be a pessimist, because that's not who I am at all. But
I have a feeling it won't. I have a feeling it won't be until 2022.
It could very well be. I mean, and the only reason,
at least on a large scale.
Yeah,
You're not
sure. It's 2021. I think they'll come back, but they're not going to be what they were before. Right. You're going to have to adjust to the environment. Therefore, you have to use the time that you have at the conventions very effectively,
right?
So that you're getting your points across. So what I'm thinking about doing is, whatever conventions I've invested in for this year that have been rolled over to next year, I'm just going to do those conventions next year, assuming that they happen. And if they don't, well, then everything gets rolled over. Now's not the time for me to invest in conventions in that way. But they'll come back eventually. It's just a matter of, when. But seeing what a lot of these other creators are able to do in the meanwhile digitally, and hit a completely different market and build on that, I think that is really, really cool, because, and the thing go ahead.
Okay, no, I'm saying, it's like anytime there's a shift, you're kind of on the front line, and we're all being forced to figure it out. And what's nice about a lot of, the indie creators is that we're all kind of trying to figure it out together, and we're all watching each other, trying to see what works. We're all kind of throwing stuff at the wall and trying to understand just what the next phase of, this world and, this business is going to be, because I don't think it's going to go back like, exactly to what it was. I think, we have to kind of put that behind us, and it's going to be a balance of the two. I think this whole digital thing is here to stay, it's going to be working. What's that?
Like e-learning.
Yeah, but it's going to be in tandem. It's going to be, you're going to have to do both. You're going to have to kind of, you're going to have to figure out a way to bring the two together. You're going to have to manage both of them for yourself. So.
Yeah, and the thing is I tend to see myself as very centered when it comes to everything that's going on. I just believe in the basic things, that if everybody's wearing a mask, then I will wear a mask too. I don't like I have to say anything about it, but I know people who have problems wearing masks, and I don't hold it against them. They have
Right.
serious physical limitations
Mhm.
from it. So I just don't judge people. It's not my
Right.
position in life. But
Right.
where I fall on it is really the only person I'm responsible for is myself. And you have to really look at the situation realistically for what it is, and make the most of it, like what you're doing. And just seeing your positive energy here on the show tonight, and just seeing how much you're really pushing this. I know you're going to get there. So so everything's done, and your campaign ends when?
October 27th.
Okay, cool. So just a little bit before Halloween. That's good.
Yeah.
And when do you think backers will have their books?
So more than likely January.
Right on, man.
I put February in there. So it would end in October. Books would be printed. I'd probably get the books mid-December, but with Christmas and New Year's and everything, I think I would probably wait to ship until after the New Year, just to make sure everyone, because it's probably, mail just gets crazy around then.
Yeah, right on. And here's a question for you too. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I don't know where you get your printing done. Are you printing locally in the United States, or are you printing?
For the comic impressions in Florida.
Oh, okay, so you're printing locally.
Yeah, we're doing it in Florida. Yeah. A lot of us go there. Yeah, in the States.
Oh, that's
they're pretty competitive.
do they actually print out of the USA, or do
they print out of the US? When I did the Kickstarter in June, and this has changed now, but shipping from getting anything from Asia back in the spring, if you're printing your books in Asia, what would normally take, I don't know, a month or two, took whatever, 6. I mean, the shipping times just kind of blew up to the point where it just wasn't worth the wait. I'd probably still be waiting for my books.
Well, not only that, you'd be paying tariffs right now.
And you'd be paying tariffs and all that. I know, because I went crazy and ordered a bunch of Blu-rays from Hong Kong, and it took
I feel absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Because, I was kind of advising a young starter, or just another creator like myself. I sent him to my printer in China.
Okay.
And it was all prior to the lockdown in China, and he couldn't get his books sent out from China to the US. I don't think he has his books yet. And I feel absolutely horrible, because this guy just spent thousands of dollars on printing something, and he doesn't even have access to his books.
Right.
He can't really do anything. I'm sure he's all kind of focused on other things anyway right now.
Right.
Regardless, it's a horrible situation to be in. So it's really good that you were able to find somebody in the U.S. How were they with pricing? I mean, I'm just curious, as pro to pro.
It was competitive. It was reasonable.
Really?
Yeah, it's very competitive.
With overseas.
Yeah, the other thing, especially, so here's the other thing too, especially without conventions, there was no minimum print run. Okay. And it's not like print on demand, where you print 50, they're going to charge you $10, and if you print 200, they'll charge you $8. They do a lot of indie books, and the pricing was really reasonable, it was really competitive, and you could print however many copies you want, because without conventions, I didn't want to do a massive print run, because I'd be sitting on them for a year, so you could manage your print runs, with variant covers. We did 50 of this Beastie Boys one, and we did 125 of the Kickstarter one, and the pricing was no different, was similar across the board. It wasn't like, well, if you're doing 50, you're going to pay more because you're not doing enough. You know what I mean? If you've ever dealt with printers, you know what I'm talking about in terms of minimums and things like that. A lot of A few of the Chinese printers or the printers in China that I looked at, the minimums were 250. And I knew for the variants, it's just like, again, without conventions, I'm just going to be sitting on 250 of each variant.
No, you have to think differently. And here's the thing:
Yeah.
you can always get them reprinted. You can always do more.
You can always get them, and even if it's a little bit more to print here, it's worth it just for that. You know what I mean? It kind of balances it out. It shakes out.
Yeah, for sure. Right now with what's going on again, dude, I dropped. My dad, he was laughing at me about it because I'm a very shrewd businessman. I'm sorry I got scissors here. I was actually cutting stuff up. I was working on Yisun Shin as right before we got on this chat here. But what happened was I got hit with a pretty hefty fine from tariff last year. I had been reprinting throughout the year and had managed to avoid tariff. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, they mentioned that by December 15th, there'd be new tariffs in place. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, better get that last job in before they do it. And sure enough, I got hit with it, and I was kind of shocked by it. But basically, there's no way for me to dispute it. And I paid it already. They already took the money. They released the books. That was it. So I got hit, and it's close to $2,000. And this was at the end of 2019, so I was expecting to get back onto the convention front and be able to earn that.
Of course, yeah.
And then I shipped my books to Emerald City for Emerald City Comic Con because they assured me that the show was going to.
Oh yeah, they canceled it last minute, right?
And they canceled it last minute, and I lost $500, and that's it. And I was like, "Can you guys do anything for me?" And they're like, "No, sorry, you're stuck." And once I took those hits, it's just like you gotta kind of step back and reevaluate what you're doing, because if you're not careful, you're gonna end up in a situation that's pretty dangerous. So, I kind of took some time to just observe the situation for what it is. Fortunately, I was in a position where I didn't have to really worry about storing my inventory because I have space, and it's fine. But I can't imagine how many creators out there don't have that luxury.
Yeah. Boxes are huge.
Oh my gosh! And they said they stack up, and I got a whole other room with my inventory all jammed in there. It's and it's tough when you're doing the whole self distribution thing. And then you were mentioning David Anthony Kraft. He was showing me. I've been up to his home in Screamer Mountain in Clayton, Georgia, and he was self-publishing Comics Interview from there, and he was self-publishing all kinds of stuff, Southern Nights, all that, all that stuff. Yeah, and he actually straight up showed me his room where he stores all of his original or not originals, but his he's got his originals somewhere else, but he has all the old books that all the comp copies. So he's got so much Comics Interview over there that if you ever go to his house, he'd probably have you walking out of there with a big stack of them.
I would love to visit. I would love to visit. Every time I see one at a convention, I buy it. Even if I've read it before, I buy it.
Oh, right on. Yeah. He came with me to New York Comic Con last year. So if you ever make your way out, that far west, but he might.
I'm from there. So.
Oh, okay, right on. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I was gonna fly him out there this year. As well, because we had a lot of fun last year. His wife, she helped me sell out at the show, which was a lot of fun, and it was his first experience being at a Comic-Con. So it was.
Oh, really? Wow.
Well, no, not. He's been at Comic-Cons before, but we had never been at a Comic-Con.
Oh, okay. I was like,
if you would have heard that, he would have smacked me and be like, "Oh, I'll show you. I was at Comic-Con before they were calling it Comic-Con."
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, no, he did them all. I mean, when he was doing Comics Interview, and he could tell you all about it, but he was telling me how he had to set up screens for promotions and stuff, and he did a tremendous amount of work. Everything I know about comics is, stuff he taught me. Like we've been working together a long time. So he'll be very happy to know that about the way you feel about his work. I'll be sure to tell him.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe he'll I'll send him a copy of your book, and he can give you his take on it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
No,
I'll have nothing but good things to say, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. You're better.
Well, cool, man. So we're kind of coming to the end of the show here. And before we go, I just want to say it's been a huge delight having you here tonight.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Somebody I've wanted to interview for quite some time now. And yeah, folks, if you haven't yet, be sure to go back Monster Matador number 1 and 2 on Kickstarter right now. And Stephen, I want to give you a chance to give us a final shout out and let us know how we can better stay connected to you, because we know where to support you, but where do we connect?
You can go to Facebook, Monster Matador, Instagram, Monster Matador, Twitter. You can follow Monster Matador, or you can do the Stephen Prince. You can email me anytime at thethirdcontact@gmail.com. And of course, there's monstermatador.com. So there's a lot of, just look up Monster Matador, and you're sure to find me.
Awesome. My friend, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I'm going to have you backstage for a minute. Let me just close everything out here, and then Did
you hit something? I want to see you hit something.
Oh, right now? I don't know if I can right now. I've had a really long day. You have no idea. Okay, let me tell you a quick story.
I was watching your promo where you were hitting that.
Well, I'm going to be kicking him.
I know.
Well, yeah, no, I made it. So the Bob dummies cost like $300, like brand new. I was like, I don't have that kind of money right now. I've been working a long time. So I contacted this French dude, and he had like an old one, and it was like all beat up and dusty. So pick it up this morning and then wash it off and fill it up with water and drag it through my warehouse. And
that's fantastic. I love it.
All right, well, hang out backstage. I'll be right back. Thanks again for coming on the show.
You.
Really happy to have you.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Well, folks, there you have it. If you haven't yet, this is not your last chance. This is only the beginning, but this is the time to get on and back this campaign. Let's help Stephen get to where he's going with this magnificent project, because he's out there and he's doing it. And if you're a fan of you will like this book too. There is no reason why you won't. It is fantastic. It speaks to all the same kinds of things that we're trying to do with Yi, in the sense of we're trying to capture an essence of something. This is a very cultural book, and I think it's even though it's got monsters and stuff and kaiju in it, there's research put into the looks of the Matador and the dialogue and the story and everything. I mean, Stephen's thought all this stuff out. So it's the monster stuff is what is the draw-in, but there's really a lot of passion and great storytelling in his book. So do me a favor and support his stuff, and also do me a favor and come back tomorrow. We got another great interview with another great creator. I will tell you guys who it is tomorrow morning. I usually wait until the morning of, because sometimes things change with my schedule with kids running around and stuff, and I want to stay on time and I want to stay within certain blocks, but with e-learning it's just really difficult. And setting up and getting everything ready for the Kicking It with Onrie show, which I hope you all tune into, even though it's called The Selling Show, and even though I am going to be talking about stuff and selling stuff, this is really my chance to kind of connect with you guys more, because when we're doing Live with Onrie, I tend to want to spend more of an intimate time with the creators themselves, so that they have a chance to say their piece and get their energy out there over to you guys, so that you'll support them and all that wonderful stuff. So Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Tomorrow we will have a brand new guest. And like I said, be sure to check out Kicking It with Onrie. Scroll back, watch that commercial at the beginning. And I will see you guys tomorrow. And until that time comes,